Y'all not going to believe this, but let me tell you what happened. I was at the shopping center and I would come out. I was in the parking lot headed to my car, and a guy I had been out on several dates with, he walked up to me in the parking lot and we started talking. And I hadn't heard from him in a couple of weeks. And I've been out on 4 or 5 dates with him over the past 6, 7 months. Nice enough guy, but we go on a date. He has a good time. He always sends me a text. Thank you. I had a nice time. And then I don't hear from him for 3 or 4 weeks, and then he'll pop back up and just, kind of flighty. Anyway, so I met him bumped into him in the parking lot. We stood at the trunk of my car and we talked for a few minutes. And I told him, he asked me what I was up to. I told him I was just headed home. I was going to cook something on the grill and call it a day. He said, well, I didn't eat any lunch today and it's dinner time. He said, do you mind if you offering to feed me at a barbecue? I said, well, I wasn't, but he said, I'll tell you what, he said, if you invite me over, he said, for barbecue, he said, I'll go back inside. There was a grocery store. He said, I'll go back inside and I'll get a couple of ribeyes. I said, oh, okay. I said, sure, why not? So I gave him directions to my house, and I feel pretty safe with him. Like I said, it's been several months, and he's not done anything outlandish other than disappear for a few weeks and then pop back up. So he goes and back into the store. I get in my car, I come to the house, and he texts me, I'm in your neighborhood, I'll be there in just a minute. And he gets out front, and I walk out there and get him. I walk him into the backyard through the side gate. And when he gets in here, he's like, oh, okay. He says, well, he's got a little bag in his hand, the steaks, I assume. And he said, what do you want me to do with these? I said, oh, I'll tell you what, you get the grill fired up and I will go inside and season the steaks. Well, after I got the steaks seasoned and everything, I got back outside and the grill still wasn't started. And he said, I can't figure out how to get it started. I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm thinking maybe he uses briquettes or something, right, at home and not a gas grill. So I go over there and just start the grill. And we let it heat up for a little bit and we talk. And he asked me about something I made, an umbrella holder. And he said, how'd you do it? I said, oh, I use Quikrete. He said, what's that? And so I explained what Quikrete was. You just add water. And poof, it's instant concrete. And we'll take a walk out there. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm actually quite proud of that. Anyway, and then we talked about my backyard is quite small and it's fenced in. And he said, he said, this don't take you long to mow. I said, no. I said, I got a lawn service guy and he can't get his riding mower in here. Why not? He said. I said, the gate's too small. He said, you sure? I said, yeah, that little tiny gate. I mean, he just walked through it and we stood up and walked over there and looked at it. He said, riding mower won't fit through. I said, no. And I mean, hell, a person can hardly fit through it. So I said, and then there were a couple of other things that he talked about that we brought up and he didn't know. So I just felt like I was talking to a nincompoop. Now, we have never talked about anything other than topics that he has brought up at these dinner dates and things that we've gone out, and that's usually been about the things that are in the news. And so I really hadn't had just a general chit chat about whatever. And we said something about cars, and I seemed to know more about that than him. And then he says, he said, you think the ribeyes are all, seasoned now? I said, oh yeah. I said, the grill should be hot. Now, I did not correct him, but those are not ribeyes. So I brought the meat out, the beef out, and I went to the grill and I put the meat on the grill. And I said, it's going to take a little while for these to cook because they have the bone. And he said, yeah, those ribeyes have the bone in it. They were T-bone steaks about that thick. And I said, yeah, and I didn't correct him. I just let it be. So all afternoon, there were just a dozen things that he seemed surprised, like he'd never, and I just thought, is he really a nincompoop or he's lived a sheltered life? So at one point, I finally said to him, I said, you seem like maybe you've lived a very isolated or very, protected, sheltered life. And what I was really trying to say was, you sound like a damn nincompoop, but I didn't. And he went on a little bit. Yeah, my ex was real bossy. She was in charge of everything, and I just followed her instructions. So I don't know if this man is ruined. He spent 58 years. Now he's an absolute nincompoop, a nitwit, or if he was naturally a nitwit and that's why she was bossy and in charge because she had a nitwit and had to boss him around. So I'm confused. We had a nice time, but having him here, I just thought, oh my God, that would be like that. I mean, he had the same questions that my 12-year-old grandson asked. How do we do this? How do we do that? Because I just I don't know, but he has invited me to go to a rodeo. And I really want to go to the rodeo because I got my new cowgirl hat. I'm so just excited and stoked about my new cowgirl hat. But I don't know. Now that he is, all the dinner dates, it's been really pleasant and he's been good company. But this just home environment, I realized that he's a nitwit. He's dumber than a box of rocks. I, I don't know. So I'm curious now. I almost want to find the ex-wife and ask her, was he an idiot when you met him, and that's why you were bossy, or or you bossing him around has turned him into a nitwit? Which way was it? I don't know if I'm going to the rodeo or not, but I damn sure do want to wear my new hat. Oh, girls. Uh, some days.